Hey everyone, welcome back to the A MOTIV MIND podcast YouTube channel where I, your host Autumn, talk all things mental health, relationships, manifesting and spirituality, self-love, and owning a small business, Kello Collective. At Kello Collective, here on this channel, you can look forward to the video recordings of each podcast episode and shorts with snippets from each video. And be sure to subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss the new episodes every Tuesday. And if you prefer to listen to the podcast instead of watching, you can listen on Spotify, which I will leave the link in the description box below for you. Also in the description box, you can find the links to stay connected to the A MOTIV MIND podcast by liking, subscribing, and following on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify at A MOTIV MIND podcast. And it would mean so much to me if you would support the podcast through my small business, Kello Collective, hand-poured coconut soy candles and products, which you can shop on kellocollective.com. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to Kello Collective on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at Kello Collective. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the video and the podcast. On the last episode, we talked about the beginning of my anxiety and panic attack journey and began the conversation on relationships and situationships that stem from our own traumas and anxiety. And how in these relationships and situationships, you feel the need to save the other person because you can't save your own self. On this episode, I'm going to bring a little bit of love into this conversation and dive deeper into my experience with a situationship that matched the energy of my mental state at the time. I will also share advice to you if you have found yourself or are currently in the same situation as me. After experiencing my own deep anxiety and the physical symptoms that came with it, I started realizing that what a person's outer appearance may look like has no indication of what they're feeling on the inside, because that was me. You see, someone with the biggest and brightest smile can hold the darkest, saddest thoughts inside and traumas from the past, but how would you know by looking at them? Seeing this in myself made me determined to help heal people and save them, especially the person that I was in love with. When you are a natural healer and provide love and care to those around you, I now see how adding anxiety into the mix can amplify these qualities in you, but to a potential unhealthy point. This is where I found myself 4 years ago after my anxiety journey began. So I was at a very low point mentally when someone was unexpectedly placed into my life. Therapy wasn't helping and I was very unhappy in several areas of my life. I was masking unhappiness and I found it very hard to find joy in life no matter how hard I tried until I met him. I wasn't seeking to find anyone new, but I very quickly found myself starting to like him and look at him a little differently than being friends. He made me laugh through the simplest ways, and I couldn't help but smile ear to ear when I was around him. Before I met him, it had been so long since I genuinely was happy and could just laugh and find joy in things. But he was able to bring out a playful and fun energy in me, and I hadn't been with somebody else who was quite like him. He filled my life with the missing happiness and laughter that I so badly needed. The energy was there, the connection, the deep conversations. If there was an issue between us, we could talk it out like adults. And it became addicting at that point because it was so new to me. This was my first experience like this, so as you could probably guess, that made me fall for him fairly quickly. The problem with this was it created an attachment and unknowingly made my mind associate the happiness with him. So over time, I started to believe that if he wasn't in my life, I would never experience these feelings again. And when we went through a period of time where we wouldn't speak, I honestly felt like there was a piece of me that was missing at that time. And I know that it sounds like I'm being a little extreme or dramatic, but I really never felt right when he wasn't in my life. Once again, looking back now, I do see that it was because I was subconsciously forming an anxious attachment to him and the feelings that he gave me because I had no other source of getting that intense emotion and happiness from. I didn't have the love and the joy in myself, so I seeked it out in him. I was so focused on turning this into a real relationship while also trying to help him mentally with his own traumas. He was not one to fully open up at first, so I tried to show him that I was there for him genuinely and I had his best interest at heart and was not going to judge him. I wanted him to feel safe with me. I wanted him to be able to be open and vulnerable and know that I was going to be right there to listen and help him. Keep in mind, though, that while I was busy building this connection with him and our situationship, I was still dealing with intense, strong daily anxiety and panic attacks, but I kept it on the down low, even with him. I didn't fully tell anyone about my anxiety and what I was going through until way later down the road, which I do not recommend at all. You should have a safe space with people you trust and be able to open up about your mental struggles. But I would go from hanging out with him and laughing, smiling, talking like normal, but then right after have a really bad panic attack from driving myself home. And I would go and cry myself to sleep after that because I didn't understand why I could not shake this constant fight or flight mode that my body was in. I was always on edge and paranoid and wanted to cry of frustration. But he was like my pocket of peace that pulled me away from the reality of my life that I dealt with when I wasn't with him. I didn't open up to him about what I was experiencing mentally because I felt like I needed to have a slight facade up and not show all of my cards at once. I couldn't make sense of my own thoughts that I had in my head, so how could I explain that to him or anyone else for that matter? You know, I didn't want him to hear about my mental struggles and form misconceptions about me or who I was deep inside. However, I was pushing to hear more about his life and mental struggles because I didn't want to see him hurting. I knew that he had a deeper life story than what he was telling me, and I wanted so badly to know about it. Not to try and pry into his personal life, but for the simple fact that I wanted to save him and reciprocate the love that I was feeling for him. Now, I do want to make it clear that I was not just focused on saving him. It's not that that was my only motive to try and get closer to him or get him to open up. I was doing it out of the kindness of my heart because I would do this for anyone that I love or have close to me. So, of course, he was no different. But this is a dangerous game to play because it caused me to get very attached. And I heard and saw a lot of his traumas and things going on in his life, which made me want to try and save him even more. I wanted to be the one to change his life and help him heal. I wanted him to feel the same happiness that he gave me, but in a way that it could pull him out of the hole he was in. I was always there to talk or listen to him and check in to see if there was anything he needed, even down to something like medicine for a headache or chapstick. I know that it seems like that's something you would obviously do for someone that you love, but the issue is that I was pouring endless amounts of love and care into someone where it wasn't fully matched in all of the ways. It was matched in terms of energy and conversation, passion, and our love connection, but we were in two different headspaces of what we were looking for in a relationship at that time. I will say though that you cannot expect someone to fully match all of your energy and everything you do for them. Everyone is different and you cannot change them or force them to give you a love that you specifically need, especially when you aren't even healed from your own inner wounds. And when you are full of traumas that you haven't even discovered, what you may actually be seeking in that other person, like security, trust, confidence, happiness, even feeling important and seen for who you truly are, amongst other things, is actually the lack in yourself. I can 100% say that at the time of this situationship with him, all of the things that I was just listing were what I was missing in myself. I think that I put a lot of pressure on him to give me reassurance because I just wanted him to say that I was the one that he wanted to be with and see that his actions were lining up with what he was saying. Looking back, I see how naive I was to think like that because, to be honest, he wasn't in a place mentally to be in a relationship, but neither was I. And it's not fair to try and get someone to feel the way that you do. People take their own time to develop feelings and move at their own pace. I moved fast because that was how my mind was going, racing constantly and feeling the need to speed up time. But while I was focusing on him, I was losing sight of healing myself from the anxiety that was still new to me at the time. As you can imagine, that's extremely draining because I was fighting for someone else while trying to fight my own mental battles. The mental state that I was in was very chaotic and all over the place. I couldn't make firm decisions. I didn't want to commit, yet I had a deep feeling of wanting to have someone committed to me and me with them. I wanted a relationship, or so I thought, but what I really wanted was someone to help save me without consciously realizing it then. The thing with anxiety is that how you feel inside about yourself and how you are struggling mentally can attract these type of people in your life that have the same energy in themselves or in their life. You need to be able to nurture and love yourself and provide yourself stability, confidence, emotional maturity, and other things first. Or you will find yourself in complicated love situationships or relationships that reflect the mental state that you're in at that time. When you naturally want to help people and see them happy, you put their needs over your own and you allow yourself to be sucked dry emotionally and mentally when that person isn't pouring into your cup in all of the same ways. At some point, you plug two and two together and realize that the love being given is in line with the love that you're showing yourself. Inconsistent. Ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I think it's time to lighten the mood for a second and light my Kello Collective Sunshine State candle, which you can shop on kellocollective.com. This candle smells just like freshly squeezed oranges from the Florida orange groves. Okay, now that I have some citrusy aromas filling the room, let's get right into the second half of this episode. So how exactly did this situationship reflect my mental state? There were multiple ways, but the first being that I wasn't confident in my outer appearance, so I was seeking validation from him through my outer appearance because I was unable to validate my own inner and outer beauty. I always made sure to dress nice, do my hair, makeup, nails, and pour into the way that I looked physically, which then resulted in receiving large amounts of compliments, boosting my confidence, but in a way that told my mind, okay, so when I get dressed up and all put together, I know that I can get a specific type of energy, but only when I look that way on the outside. You would not catch me without makeup or in comfy clothes until I got way more comfortable with him. And there's nothing wrong with no makeup and wearing comfy clothes because honestly, that's how I am the majority of the time now. But I associated being dolled up as a way to get my confidence boosted externally. My brain created a false narrative and made me feel insecure and invalidated if I didn't present myself in the way that he met me and he would always see me, which is put together. Now, this wasn't the case on his side at all, and he didn't make me feel like I had to be put together all the time. In fact, he actually encouraged me to be natural, but I was already so deep in my head and overthinking things because I was not happy with myself. So I still felt the need to be presentable to him. The energy that he gave me in terms of hyping me up and boosting my confidence in different ways was so enticing. I craved his energy and how he made me feel so beautiful. He made me feel on top of the world. It was like because I had his validation, nothing else mattered in terms of me actually seeing that beauty in myself. It's crazy because you would think that since he made me feel so beautiful and like a goddess, that I would see that in myself and that I would feel that way about me as well. But that was far from my reality because when the makeup and cute outfits came off, I was left tearing myself down when I would see the reflection in the mirror. I picked myself apart and tore down my own confidence until I got dressed up the next day and saw him again, got my confidence validated, and then went home and went through the same cycle of feeling ugly and just disgusted with myself. It was a never ending cycle of insecurity and feeling ugly. But you know what's truly ugly? The ugliness that I was showing myself through the words and disgust of what I saw on the outside. Aside from my confidence issue, I was craving stability because I did not feel stable mentally with all of the unpredictable anxiety that would stop me from doing things that I could do before, like simply driving 5 minutes down the road to get coffee. My life was nothing like it was pre-anxiety. The grip that I had on my own life was slipping. So to me, I wanted to find a person who could provide me that stability and calmness that I was missing internally. So I pushed more to get this from him and out of our situationship, which in turn slightly pushed him away to be distant and probably slightly cautious to him not being at the point that he wanted to be in his life and being unable to provide me the stability that I was seeking. It's interesting too, though, that he was seeking stability, but we both couldn't provide that to ourselves and in our lives the way that we wanted to. I know that you're probably thinking, Autumn, how are you looking for stability in someone that you could clearly see was unable to give you that? Honestly, I looked at the type of connection that we had and got so wrapped up into the laughter and the butterflies and the love that I had deep inside for him. And I told myself that I would be able to pull the stability and commitment from within him once he saw who I was deep within. Although my anxious mind was kind of dysfunctional and having clarity in my own obsessive thoughts, I still knew that I could provide love and care to him and to those that I love. Truly, I just wanted to be seen. I just wanted someone to look at me and say that they see me for who I am outside of this anxiety shell that I had surrounding me, and that they could see the caring, genuine, and loving person that I am. I wanted him to be the one that could see this in me. I wanted him to both say and show me that I was who he was searching for all along and that he was ready to commit to me. Sounds like a cliche fairy tale, doesn't it? This situation was definitely far from any fairy tale, but to me, I was hoping to find my happily ever after in him. I want you to know, though, that the happily ever after is truly in finding peace and forgiveness for yourself. The person that you are seeking should complement you and your life and add peace and happiness to that. They should not be your only source of light. The desire that I had for stability and reassurance was strong, and that was rooted in my search of feeling important to someone. I always felt like I was on the back burner in friendships and relationships. So when I finally got a little taste of someone showing me an exciting and different love that satisfied parts of my anxiety momentarily, I clung onto him hard. The current conditions and state of your mind can set the tone for you to fall in love with someone who matches that energy that you're putting out into your own mind and feeding into your own soul. It can persuade you to fall in love with someone even easier based on the simple things. This could be like how they look at you, how they make you feel when they're around, or the things that they say to you and the excitement that they bring to you mentally instead of taking a step back and seeing if their actions are aligning with what they're telling you. When I got to a more healed point in my anxiety journey, I could look back at the situation for what it really was. It was a young version of myself who wanted to be treated like a queen and adored, but not through gifts and material things, instead, through a raw and real connection on a soul level. This was a version of myself who wanted a man to provide me stability mentally and physically, someone who understood me and was open and honest about what was happening in their life and their past. Someone that I could be my truest self with by showing who I was deep inside, including the dark, sad pieces, but while also sharing a non-attachment, healthy connection filled with love and respect. I wanted to be confident in myself, but instead seeked validation from him through my outer appearance. I wanted to own my own business and be able to provide stability in my life financially and mentally, and be able to trust myself to make confident decisions about who I was, who I had in my life, and where my life was going, not from an anxious and confused state of mind. My advice to you, if you're in this situation, is to take a step back. Just look at the situation from an outside perspective of someone looking in. What would they see? Is it a true, healthy relationship with two people who are in love and pouring into each other equally? Or would they see one person giving more than the other? Would they see two mentally traumatized people who are unknowingly seeking someone that matches the same energy that you and them feel internally? Only you can answer these questions, but it's time to think about this if you find yourself in an attachment, anxiety-based situationship or relationship. You also need to sit with yourself and thoughts in silence. Pray, meditate, seek therapy or other positive outlets to gain clarity on the situation. You may be in love with this person like I was, but at a certain point, you need to turn inward and see if what you're looking for in this person to provide you is what you have lacked in providing yourself. You must have patience with yourself in this process, and I cannot tell you how long it will take to find your answer, but you need to open yourself up to receiving the answer. But I do have to say that even though you may receive the answer and feel in your gut like this isn't right, I should walk away, you have to be willing to walk away and ready, but only you can get to that point. You cannot have someone just tell you like, oh, walk away, and you're like, okay, cool, let's do it. No. It takes a lot of time and a lot of thought, and it's very hard walking away from someone that you're in love with, but it's definitely the right decision if things are not being reciprocated and you're just trying to save them or seek things that you're missing in yourself. Also, the longer that you just hold on to this person and cling on to what that relationship was or the feelings that they gave you, you're actually holding yourself back and prolonging the time for you to find either the person that you're meant to have or, most importantly, finding yourself. It took a significant amount of time and prayer and eye-opening events for me to walk away from my situationship. And even though that love was really there, I'm speaking from experience when I say that you have to be ready to walk away and that you can't just sit here and listen to somebody else telling you to do that. Or even in therapy, it's at the end of the day going to take you to come to your own decision and healing to be able to walk away. What I want you to remember is that even if you are in love with this person and want so badly for it to work, you can only fight for so long until you're running yourself to the ground, trying to make someone else happy and save them from their own mind, but in the process, losing the fight in your own life. That is not to say that you and your person cannot work through traumas together and heal in a healthy way, because you 100% can do that with the right person. No one is ever fully healed to be able to step into a relationship because that relationship can end up exposing other traumas or anxieties that you didn't even know were there, or maybe ones that you thought you healed from. That's when it's important to have the right person there to help you work on those with you, and along with you doing the same for them in healthy ways. Just remember, though, that your healing and traumas are not their responsibility to handle for you. You need to learn mindfulness in situations where you can stop yourself and look at the situation and say, wait, I think that I'm projecting onto you how I feel in this moment, or something from a triggering past event that is making me turn this situation onto you. Grow together, love each other with patience and gentleness, but focus on your healing individually and doing that in healthy ways through self-reflection, therapy, soul searching, and anything else that allows you to align with your true self. An important takeaway from today is that you cannot save everyone. It is not your job to save someone else. How can you save someone and help them heal if you're far from saving your own self? Do not seek stability, confidence, emotional maturity, love, and nurturing care in another individual if you're unable to provide that to yourself. How can you seek that in someone else and even provide that to them if you don't even know how to regulate your own thoughts and emotions? That's hard to hear, isn't it? It's a hard reality to accept, but this is what you need to wake up and tell yourself. I went through this for months where I was chasing someone who I thought was going to be able to provide me those things. And I spent the rest of that year flip-flopping emotionally on if I should be with them or separate myself to have someone who can provide me comfort and stability. I had so many breakdowns and tears shed because I truly wanted nothing more than to be with him and have a perfect ending. But I focused entirely too much on a man that sparked love and intense feelings for me, opposed to ensuring that I was in a good place mentally to even be in a relationship. I needed to focus on graduating college in a few years, hopefully starting a business, and creating financial stability for myself to get my own place and be independent. It's not that he was preventing me or stopping me at all from doing these things. In fact, he was actually extremely supportive in what I wanted to do in my life, and he wasn't a bad person by the slightest. I just had my own priorities out of place. I formed an attachment and comfort that also kept me going back, but I told myself that it was just love I was feeling. Like, oh, these are feelings that you should have when being in love. You should want to be around them, provide them love and care, or have butterflies when you talk to them, and have that passion and intimacy. You would naturally want to see them succeed and help them heal from their traumas. However, you should feel this and do this in a healthy and gentle way in a true partnership, not by sacrificing your own needs and lacking in your self-care and self-nurturing. I wanted to have a connection with someone while being disconnected from my soul and truest self. As you can imagine, that's not how that's going to work. I was so focused on seeking out someone who could fill my voids and provide me happiness and love that I was willing to lose sight of the anxiety that I was going through that was trying to show me that I needed to heal from my own traumas. But I was doing this in hopes that eventually that person would save me too. But it wasn't up to him to save me. And it wasn't up to me to save him. I needed to find the love in myself before I can give it back to someone else. And you need to do the same. Do not feel like it's your job to save someone. The need to save him not only stemmed from needing to save myself, but it stemmed from being unable to save my brother that passed away. When you lose someone so close to you that you love, like your sibling, it changes the way you think. It changes how you view people, but especially your loved ones. I felt helpless in watching my brother drown in depression and a crippling addiction years before my anxiety began. Looking back, I wish I could have saved him, even though I did all that my 17-year-old self could at that time. And you cannot change someone who doesn't know how to help themselves. This is especially the case when they're facing an addiction that's like a demon grabbing a hold of their mind and ripping it apart one pill at a time. There is no way that I could even come close to imagining what my brother went through, but I know how it felt being on the outside, experiencing the emotional roller coaster of watching him suffer from his addiction, to then grieving the void my family and I feel without him. Have you lost someone close to you from an addiction? Have you watched their suffering firsthand and felt helpless? Meet me back here next Tuesday to have a heart-to-heart with me as I share this heavy, life-altering time in my life with you and discuss how this impacted my anxiety and mental health years later. Hey, I'm so glad that you made it to the end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to comment down below your favorite part of this episode, or maybe share something about your own journey. And make sure to check out the previous episodes of the A Motive Mind podcast that you may have missed. And don't forget to listen on Spotify if you prefer to listen to the audio recordings of this episode. And let's stay connected on Instagram and Facebook by liking, following, and sharing at A Motive Mind podcast and my small business, Kello Collective. You can find all of the links down below in the description box, and it would mean so much to me for you guys to check them out. All right, well, I will see you guys on the next episode. And remember, together, let's create a motive mind.